Good morning, everyone. We have entered day 4 of the transfer window. The big topic so far has been the situation surrounding Bryan Mbeumo, who has chosen to join Manchester United over the likes of Arsenal, Tottenham, Newcastle, and Aston Villa. It was reported by journalists over in Newcastle if we were able to potentially get this deal done, and Bruno is wanting quadruple his current wage at Brentford. So just to give a bit of context, he's currently earning £45,000 a week. So we are talking in excess of £180,000 to £190,000 per week at Newcastle, which would make him our highest earner over the likes of Bruno, Isak, Tonali, and Joe Linton. It somehow gets worse. It was reported last night that Manchester United would be paying him £250,000 a week, 5.5 times what he is currently earning at Brentford, £12 million a year. Utter madness. I can't get into my head how much money this guy wants now. As a Newcastle fan, looking at this current transfer saga, and I'm sure all of you watching this video now, I almost feel better that we haven't got the guy in. I can understand his point of view. I'm not going to criticise him. I get his family comes first. I can't blame the player for wanting to make a shed ton of money. But 5.5 times more than what he's earning, 250 grand a week, it is madness. And Newcastle have done the correct thing to make sure that this is not a player we've decided to go all in for. And it's a shame. I wish the situation was different. But I'm telling you now, we have done the best possible scenario to not get him in. 250 grand a week, £12 million a year. Look at our wage structure. That would have destroyed the wage structure at Newcastle United. But welcome back. 59% of you watching this video are not subscribed, so make sure you do subscribe because the transfer news has been non-stop. There is so much going on, not just with Newcastle, but in the transfer market as well. So make sure you stay updated, you don't miss any incoming news. And I feel like we're already at that point in the season where this could potentially be a double upload today. I'm not going to guarantee it, but if something big comes out, of course, we will address it as soon as possible. Now, there has been transfer news that have been revealed or talked about from local journalists, so we're here in this video to get to the bottom of it, as well as the PSR situation. Chelsea yet again have found a loophole, and despite finding that loophole, they will not be punished. Is this something where Newcastle needs to be on top of, or is this something where Newcastle has been screwed over? We're going to get to the bottom of it in this video. We'll start off with the transfer news, as it has been reported from the likes of Craig Hope and Sky Sports that Newcastle United is interested in signing Joao Pedro from Brighton. And even then, this is a bit complicated in the background because Crystal Palace currently has a potential possibility of being kicked out of European football due to the fact that they're partly owned by an owner that also owns a different European side in the competition. If that happens, Brighton will go into European football. So even in this transfer situation, Newcastle still is not fully able to potentially get this player in because of outside factors. But this is a player Newcastle is interested in. It was reported by Fabrizio Romano 2 years ago that this was a done deal. Of course, at the time it wasn't, and that was completely wrong by Romano. But this is a player Newcastle has been previously linked to, and he's someone, in my opinion, that Newcastle will want this guy. I don't know if we'll get him, and I feel like, especially how the last few days has been, it's anything but easy for Newcastle to get this deal done. But it's at least some positive news that has been reported by several journalists that Newcastle does have an eye on Joao Pedro, but they don't have an eye on Kingsley Coman. That was someone where Newcastle fans and social media and different YouTube channels has been able to have a discussion about potentially bringing Coman in. But according to Craig Hope, this one is not, at least at this moment in time, on Newcastle's radar. And we also discussed yesterday the possibility of Newcastle United bringing Tim Krul in on a free because of UEFA's guidelines where we need a set amount of homegrown players. Now, Craig Hope has not stated that it's Tim Krul we're looking at. He said Fraser Forster is the goalkeeper we're looking at. So the exact same scenario. Both goalkeepers are free agents, but he believes that Newcastle is potentially going to be bringing Fraser Forster in just so we have that guideline sorted. And with having that guideline sorted, and once Newcastle has their homegrown players selected for next season, we could sell the likes of Sean Longstaff now, get a bit of pure profit, and have solved any PSR problems ahead of next season, just so Newcastle can clean their backs nice and early. And it's also been reported in the Premier League that clubs are currently bidding to close a loophole that Chelsea was able to do last season to help comply with PSR. And this is where Newcastle gets screwed over and different clubs get screwed over, because Chelsea last season was able to comply with PSR by being able to sell their women's team to themselves, so they've sorted to a different offset company, and then because of that, they've been able to produce revenue inside the football club, which is then used to comply with PSR. And nothing personal against Chelsea, but especially over the past couple of seasons, they've always found a way of finding a loophole. They had the contract situation a few years ago where you're talking 7 to 8 year contracts in players, so payments are structured over a prolonged period of time. Not to mention the hotel situation where it was reported in the media that Chelsea were even selling their own hotels to themselves for an overinflated price, which of course the money then again went back into the football club. And I can't blame Chelsea for finding ways to get around the loophole. If that was Newcastle and we were doing the exact same thing, as fans, we'll probably be applauding the club and going, well done, lads, have figured out a way to deal with this situation. But ultimately, it's not on. If we follow the rules, every single other club has to follow the rules. And Chelsea is a team that every single season now is able to find a way where they can get past PSR. But the issue being is that they're not being punished for it. They'll find a way, a legal way, to be fair to Chelsea. And while it is quite dodgy to talk about Chelsea, there's nothing illegal about it. They're doing, within the Premier League laws, a legal way to get around FFP. But every single season, they find something different to do and they don't get punished for it. And as a result, all the other 19 teams in the league now can't do what Chelsea has done because, of course, all the teams have been to get this over and done with. And unfortunately, it's something where Newcastle does get screwed over from. Now, there's probably two ways you can go about this. You can either go about this by us then starting to play a bit dodgy, starting to go out of our way to try and find a certain way we can get around the loophole, or you follow the rules and other teams around you continue to do crap like this. And it's not a video of me dissing Chelsea or me going, Chelsea can't do this, we should be able to do that. The point of it is that Newcastle is unable to do anything with this FFP and this PSR shenanigans because different teams in the league are going out of their way to find loopholes which benefit themselves. Manchester United, of course, you talk about Cunha coming in, you talk about Mbeumo coming in on these ridiculous wages. Now, this is a team that has missed out on Champions League football. They've even got a deal with Adidas where if they aren't in the Champions League, they lose £10 million. They've actually got a Champions League clause with Adidas themselves. And not to mention, when you look at the finances behind that Tottenham match, qualifying for the Champions League, the TV money they would have got in the competition, and they've now got no European football. They've lost an estimate of £90 million solely from that Tottenham defeat. And even then, Cunha and Bruno's came in despite them having one of the highest wage structures in the world. Manchester United are looking to offload players, but a player like Bruno Fernandes, despite the ridiculous amount of money he would have earned over in Saudi Arabia, has turned them down. And that is £100 million, which they won't make because Bruno has refused to go to Saudi Arabia. Now, yes, they'll sell the likes of Marcus Rashford, they'll sell a few other players inside the football club, but you still got to ask the finances behind this. Jim Radcliffe said himself that Manchester United will be broke this Christmas. Not to mention, over the past few years, Manchester United have got high losses. They've got heavy losses due to not playing well in the league. And they've got heavy losses because they've spent so much money on players and wages that haven't been able to produce that money back. Manchester United is another example where you guys will ask the obvious question, how do they make this money? Where is this money coming from? And sure, Manchester United will make a lot of player sales and they'll make a lot of money this summer from offloading players to different football clubs, but they've still spent a lot of money and they haven't been making profit for a good few seasons now. So again, as a Newcastle fan, your question can go, well, what's going on here? Before final message coming out from this video, PSR is still a load of crap. I think that's probably the biggest message to make from this entire situation. Newcastle's done well with the player sales last year. They've done well to put themselves in a situation now where they're able to bring players in. But even when they're trying to sign players, Manchester United, £250,000 a week for the transfer target we won. That's what the player wants himself. It's ridiculous how Newcastle are supposed to buy players and how we're supposed to get top level targets and whether either incredibly greedy with how much money they want to an extent where we can't even sign the player we want due to the fact of how much it would mess our wage structure up. What about players that we are wanting to buy from different Premier League clubs, but most Premier League clubs don't want to sell to Newcastle due to the fact we are a competitive rival in the league. we're a heavy European target for several clubs. So unless there's a team in the league, for example, West Ham, where they don't mind selling Newcastle, most teams in the league don't want to sell to Newcastle. So when Newcastle are trying to buy players from different clubs, they've got a hard job doing it. And PSR is then being found out in different loopholes from our Premier League clubs. Newcastle, what are we supposed to do here? We can't break the rules because we get a points deduction. So we've got to comply with the rules, and then our clubs find loopholes to get around the rules. So it's one of those ones where you put your hands up and go, well, hang on, what can we do here? And I know I might come across as a bit bitter on this video, and I might come across as someone who's just obviously being a bit biased towards Newcastle, but you got to look at this crap and just say, how does this benefit the league? And the bigger teams can't buy in this league because of PSR. So how does that help the Premier League as a global product? Why will fans in America come and watch our game? I think when you look at the best players in the world, the Premier League has some of the best players in the world, but even then, I would still say the Spanish League, for example, probably has a larger chunk of the world's best players. I don't think the Premier League has the best players in the world anymore. We have some of them, but I think a large majority of them probably aren't in the Premier League. And actual quality over the last few years, especially towards the top end of the table, it's just not been an awful lot there over the last few seasons. And again, you guys may think I'm looking into it too much, but this PSR is just absolutely ruining the game. It is just destroying the game. It's not nice at all. I think it's an absolute load of rubbish. And even the big teams that are finding loopholes, even the likes of Chelsea, probably aren't having as much fun as they would have wanted to with this PSR FFP shenanigans. And again, even when Newcastle's cleared the books this season, we're struggling to bring players in just due to the ridiculous nature of what players are wanting. In Bruno's situation, it just gets more ridiculous every single time you look at it. And there's only so many times in this video I can say that, but what a load of rubbish this is. Honestly, what a load of rubbish. But thank you guys for watching anyway. Sorry for a bit of a negative end to the video there. Newcastle still got loads of work with this summer. Don't worry about it. We'll get some players in. I'm glad that this Bruno situation is out of our hands now. Yeah, it's a situation we are never ever going to sign the player in. Mental. It is ridiculous. But take care. Let me know your opinions down below. I appreciate you watching as always, and we'll potentially see you later on. But if not, we will see you in the next video.